Hello and welcome to a new edition of Rump and Robby's weekly IU basketball talk. I'm Robby Howard.
And I'm Sam Rumpza.
And we're coming to you after a week off because Rump was in Atlanta meeting Dominique Wilkins and Josh Smith. We're excited to preview IU basketball's matchup with number 13 Michigan State tomorrow. The Spartans come to Assembly Hall here in Bloomington for a matchup of two top 15 teams. Of course, as we said, Spartans number 13, who just come in at number 7 in the AP polls. This is a matchup of two pretty good teams, Rump.
That's exactly right, and it starts off a period of 6 days that are very tough for the IU basketball program, but you can't look ahead to the next couple of games before you get past Michigan State because Tom Izzo's squad, as always, is very, very good. They've got a good group of freshmen. They've got a good leadership at the point guard, Keith Appling. They've got good big men, and it's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, both these teams with just one conference loss so far this season. Michigan State hasn't quite had the same margin of victory that the Hoosiers have had, but nonetheless, like you said, it's a Tom Izzo coached team, and that always means good things.
They've gotten past some tough squads, Ohio State by 3 and Wisconsin by 2 in their last 2 games, and it'll be interesting to see if their luck can continue. They won at the Kohl Center. Now can they come into Assembly Hall, a place where they have won 2 out of the last 3, but as you mentioned before, and as we were preparing, that doesn't mean that much because IU won last year by 15 points. Their defense was very stifling, and obviously it's a different IU program than it was a few years ago.
Yeah, IU ran away with the game at Assembly Hall last season, knocking off Michigan State when it was number 5 in the country, making the third top 5 team last season that the Hoosiers knocked off at home. That came a 70-55 win for the Hoosiers last season. Cody Zeller put in 18 points against the bigs of Michigan State and Adrian Payne and Derek Nix. That's something to watch for because, as we remember, Cody Zeller did not do very well his first time around against Michigan State last season when the Hoosiers went to East Lansing. He really struggled against those big post players.
That's exactly right, and we've seen him at times dominate the post this year. In the first half against Wisconsin, he had 18 points, didn't miss a field goal against a good post player, and Jared Berggren, comparable to Derek Nix and Adrian Payne. But he disappeared in the second half, and in the last game against Penn State, a team that doesn't have big men, 2 points. He
0 field goals.
As Victor Oladipo said, he did affect the game in other ways, but 2 points is going to cut it against Michigan State tomorrow.
Yeah, and if you're Cody Zeller, you're the preseason number 1 player in the country. It's your job to score points. You don't necessarily have to put up 20 points or anything every game, but you do need to score more than 2, and you need to knock in some field goals.
Exactly right, and it's going to be a tough matchup again tomorrow. They've got depth in the post, and that's something that can hurt the Hoosiers. But because of the fact that their bench has been so weak the past few games, and because of the fact that we've seen such poor second halves, so I'm very interested to see how the bench will produce tomorrow as well.
Yeah, and it's very important if this game does become close down the stretch. Michigan State very good in the final 3 minutes. In conference games this season, Michigan State shooting 50% from the field in the final 3 minutes and 84% from the foul line. In games decided by 5 points or less, Spartans are 5-1 on the season, including 3-0 in conference play.
Yeah, and I think it'll be another game that decided by that close of a margin tomorrow afternoon, but it's going to be definitely a raucous Assembly Hall at a 1 o'clock start on CBS, and the students will be strong. And it's nothing new for Michigan State because they always test themselves in the preseason, and they're used to the tough Big Ten environments. As I mentioned, they just won at the Kohl Center, but the fans are still going to bring it tomorrow.
Yeah, and Assembly Hall is a little different than the Kohl Center. Not taking anything away from the Kohl Center, but if anyone saw IU's win last season against the Spartans, I think they understand. That was a pretty special crowd. I was actually in the student section for that game last season, and it almost felt, not quite, it was almost as loud as the Kentucky game.
Wow.
So it's a pretty special atmosphere. Another storyline to look at, of course, you've got the matchup of Tom Izzo versus Tom Crean. Of course, Izzo being one of Crean's great mentors. He was on Izzo's staff when he was first getting his coaching career started.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and it's tough for Tom Crean to go up against such a good mentor, and it's tough for Tom Izzo too. But he said it's gotten past the novelty stage, and now it's just it's still not another game, but it started to become that because it's not the novelty that it used to be anymore. Right.
Another thing to look at: Michigan State comes into the game with 3 guys on their roster from Indiana, including their top 2 players, Gary Harris, a freshman out of Hamilton Southeastern, and Brandon Dawson, a sophomore out of Lew Wallace. How do you think that plays into this game?
I think that Gary Harris is going to get a rude awakening when he comes to Assembly Hall for the first time. Of course, his recruitment came down to IU, Purdue, Michigan State, and UK, and obviously chose to go to the Spartans. And as I wrote in my WIUX Big Ten basketball blog a couple weeks ago, if he is able to step up into that #1 role, he's been a very good freshman so far, averaging over 12 points a game, very athletic. He's shot the ball well. But if he can develop into that #1 role that I know he has the talent to be, and he does have the talent to be, then Michigan State becomes a whole different team. And I'm very much looking forward to the matchup of Victor Oladipo and Gary Harris, because they're two very athletic guards, 6'4", 6'5", and it's just going to be a great matchup all day long. And with Brandon Dawson, it's going to be a tough matchup as well for the Hoosiers. He's a great rebounder, very athletic at 6'6", especially when you throw in Payne and Nix. It's a pretty athletic team.
Do you see Oladipo staying more on Harris more than Dawson?
Well, I mean,
because that's a tough matchup. Because with the starting lineup, you look at it with IU starting Yogi Ferrell and of course Jordan Hulls. Then that leaves Victor, and then you go to Christian Watford and Cody Zeller. So to start the game, Jordan Hulls or Yogi Ferrell is going to have to play Gary Harris or Brandon Dawson.
Yeah, and that's kind of the matchup problems that we've been talking about all season. Is Jordan Hulls doesn't match up with any of those guys very well. He's just not that good of a defender. Keith Appling is very quick. He's very good in transition, and he's actually the leading scorer in front of Gary Harris. And Yogi Ferrell, he's a very quick defender, very good, but he's also 5'11", 6 foot maybe. And Gary Harris is 6'4", 6'5", and get into the post and dominate in the post as he did in high school. So yeah, I do think you're going to see Oladipo on Dawson just out of necessity, but I think once the game gets going and substitutions are coming in and out, I think Oladipo is going to end up on Harris quite a bit, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
You mentioned Keith Appling. I think that's going to be a pretty fun matchup to watch. Most likely Yogi Ferrell going against Keith Appling. Those are 2 quick guards going at one another. I think this is going to be a pretty fast tempo game.
Yeah, and it'll be nice for the teams to be able to get out and run, because IU lost to Wisconsin in a slow-paced game. And Michigan State, their last 2 games against Ohio State and Wisconsin, have been very low scoring. They won both those games, but Michigan State known more as a transition team, and I think that's what we'll see tomorrow. I think it'll be a high-scoring, up-tempo game, a lot of excitement, and I think that definitely helps Cody Zeller. If IU can control the tempo and keep it up-tempo, then I think that does favor IU, even though Michigan State is very good in transition.
Give me your keys to the game for IU pulling out a victory tomorrow.
They have to force turnovers. Michigan State averages 14 turnovers a game. That's quite a bit of turnovers for a top 15 team. And if IU can force the turnovers, get out in transition, get points off of turnovers, that'll help. Also, I look for them to drive baseline. As you always see it before the games, IU runs their drill where they have their point guard drive baseline. He gets underneath the basket, beneath where he can even score. If they can do that, then that opens up a lot of options, because the defense collapses in. That opens up, the paint area for cutters, or you can kick it out to guys like Jordan Hulls. You have to screen for the shooters like Jordan Hulls, and get him open shots, get guys on the perimeter open. And lastly, just more production from the bench. Obviously, that's something that IU struggled with. Will Sheehy did have 12 points against Penn State, scored pretty well. But Remy Abel, he was called the best 7th man in the country by ESPN just a few short weeks ago. And now he's got 3 points in the last 4 games. He's missed his last 9 shots. So more contributions from the bench, because he'll play a key role on defense too, going up against guys like Harris and Dawson.
Another key that I look at is Christian Watford. Last time these 2 teams played, Watford put up a double-double, 10 points and 14 boards. That's really important to try to help out Cody Zeller, because Cody, as we've talked about, is going to have his hands full down low with Adrian Payne and Derek Nix. If Christian can come in and provide valuable rebounding and some more scoring, a solid both perimeter threat, and if he can go down low and get some points in the post, that'd be really valuable for the Hoosiers as well.
Definitely, and when he shows up with high effort, then it's always going to turn out well for the Hoosiers. It's been a mixed bag with Christian Watford, but if he can come out with the big game tomorrow, I'm confident that the Hoosiers can play well and get the victory. But then even after that, they still can't look ahead to Michigan, because going to Mackey Arena on Wednesday, That's always going to be a tough place to
Yep.
play, no matter what Purdue's playing like, and they played Michigan well for the first half. So it's the next 3 games, an incredibly tough stretch.
Yep, should be a fun week of Indiana basketball ahead. We'll see you next week.
Wait, we're gonna do predictions.
Prediction. All right, I'll take IU 70-62.
I want to say 76-72. IU pulls out the victory. It's going to be scary though. I think IU is going to be trailing in the second half, but I think Victor Oladipo comes up with some big plays like he did in the Iowa game with like an offensive rebound late, something like that. And I think IU wins by 4.
Should be an exciting week of Indiana basketball ahead. We'll talk to you next week on Rump and Robby's weekly IU basketball podcast.
Thanks for tuning in.